Hi, today I'm going to be talking about the North Face's campaign in South Korea called Never Stop Exploring. So, first, we're going to start with the situation analysis, which consists of an analysis of the problem, the internal and external factors to consider, and a small SWOT analysis. First, the problem. The North Face brand has traditionally provided clothing and tools for individuals seeking adventure in nature. However, the company wanted to reach a broader audience by connecting with people in a way that wasn't strictly tied to the outdoors. The question became, how do we identify with individuals who are not the traditional consumer for our brand? How can we make the North Face more universal? The North Face shifted its focus from the niche concept of the outdoors to a more universal, thrill-seeking aspect of exploration. For the first internal factor, we're going to consider the North Face brand. The North Face's mission is to provide the best gear for our athletes and the modern day explorer, to support the preservation of the outdoors, and to inspire a global movement of exploration. North Face strives to live by its true north standard. This is the company's belief that exploration has the power to change us, to challenge us, and to help us see the world from new perspectives. When the company officially hit its 60th anniversary, it added 3 new pledges to its ranks. Number 1, to first empower exploration and the thrill of the unknown for as many people as possible. Number 2, to protect the places where we live, play, and operate. And number 3, to evolve the way we make our products by improving our environmental performance and social responsibility in the supply chain. These pledges are interesting because they make a promise to North Face consumers, but stay true to the brand by also making promises that establish the company as environmentally conscious. We will see how the North Face has upheld the first of these promises through the campaign we are discussing today. The next internal factor that we'll consider is the North Face's history. The story of the North Face started in 1966, a little ironically, with a hiking enthused couple, Doug and Susie Tompkins, in a beach town. The pair founded a small mountaineering retail store in San Francisco's North Beach neighborhood. By 1968, the North Face had adopted its new name and grown enough to warrant moving to the other side of San Francisco Bay. The store's success continued to grow, and by the early 1980s, the North Face was ready to break into the ski scene. By the end of the decade, the North Face became the only supplier in the United States to offer a comprehensive collection of high-performance outerwear, ski wear, sleeping bags, packs, and tents. This established the brand as a one-stop shop for cold weather and outdoor needs for consumers. The company continued to expand product types and improve quality through the 1990s. 2 breakthroughs in recent years we owe to North Face include Thermoball and FuseForm. Thermoball is a form of synthetic insulation that mimics the capability of down. FuseForm is a lighter, stronger, and more durable type of weave for North Face products. Today, the North Face is owned by its parent company, the VF Corporation. The next internal factor we'll consider is the North Face's involvement in Korea. VF Corp's former CEO and president, Eric Wiseman, reported seeing a 5-fold increase in revenue from Asia in 2007. Since then, North Face has focused on this expanding market. For example, the company has created Korea-specific clothing lines like White Label. One aspect of the North Face brand in South Korea is its association with social status. This is a positive aspect for the brand. However, if taken too far, it can have negative consequences for consumers. While this association with status is somewhat true in the US, some middle schoolers and high schoolers in Korea take it to the next level via bullying and theft. Korean photographer and videographer with Vogue Korea, Dazed, Hypebeast, and MM6, Mason Margiela, says it is one of the few pieces of clothing students get to select themselves because of school uniform requirements. It's an important decision. An interview with Korean students reported by CNN even said that specific jackets hold drastic associations, such as extreme levels of wealth or gang association, and everyone has one. Some refer to the North Face jacket as the uniform over the uniform. This issue was reported in 2012 and is still present today. Another popular term is the backbreaker, in reference to the level of work required of parents to pay for the expensive jackets. While the North Face brand is respected and desired in South Korea, these issues are important to recognize when analyzing the company's impact and associations in the host culture. The next internal factor is Interred. Interred is an agency based in Seoul, South Korea. North Face recognized that it would need the help of locals who had a better understanding of the language, culture, market, and aspects of public relations in South Korea to avoid creating a campaign entirely from the American perspective. So, the company teamed up with Interred to execute the campaign. The agency lists its official industry as marketing and advertising on its LinkedIn page. However, its website has a page also dedicated to public relations. Other popular American brands the agency has worked with include Starbucks, TikTok, and M&M's. Now we'll move to external factors. the first being Korea's history. In 668 AD, several competing kingdoms unified into a single dominion on the Korean peninsula. Fast forward to the 16th century, and Japan tried to invade, sparking a 250-year-long isolation policy within Korea. During the 19th century, Western powers tried to engage with Korea via trade and diplomatic relations with little success. During the Japanese-Russia War, the Japanese took control of the peninsula, marking the beginning of over 35 years of colonial rule. Korea became an industrialized country, but its people suffered brutal repression at the hands of the Japanese, who tried to wipe out its distinctive language and cultural identity and make Koreans culturally Japanese. After World War II, the United States and the Soviet Union divided control over the peninsula. In 1948, the U.S.-supported Republic of Korea was established in the capital city of Seoul. 2 years later, South Korea declared independence. In response, North Korea, backed by China and the Soviet Union, invaded in an effort to regain control of the peninsula. U.S. and United Nations troops fought alongside South Korean forces in the Korean War, which ended in 1953 with the Armistice Agreement, leaving the Korean peninsula divided. Over the decades to come, South Korea maintained a continued close relationship with the United States, which included military, economic, and political support. Since then, Korea went through military leaders and presidents and was even elected to host the 1988 Olympic Games in Seoul. The next external factor will be Korea's political evolution. In 1961, Park Chung-hee executed a military coup, placing him as the head of South Korea. Under his rule, the 70s enjoyed a period of industrial and economic growth. However, Park was executed in 1979. Chun Doo-hwan rose to power, adopting a similar militaristic ruling style. In 1981, he became essentially the self-elected president of the newly formed Fifth Republic of Korea. By 1987, popular dissatisfaction with the government and international pressure pushed Chun out of office. With the rise of Roh Tae-woo came the Sixth Republic, which allowed direct election of the president for the first time in 1987. Roh worked during his term to further liberalize the political system and tackle corruption within the government. Now Korea shifted toward democracy. In the 1980s, South Korea shifted its economy toward technological industries and worked to improve its relations with the Soviet Union and China. However, it also continued to transition away from military rule toward democracy. In 1988, Kim Dae-jung took office. His term earned him a Nobel Peace Prize in 2000 for his contributions to democracy in South Korea and his sunshine policy of economic and humanitarian aid to North Korea. However, despite his efforts, relations with North Korea quickly deteriorated as North Korea refused to halt development of nuclear weapons. In 2013, South Korea elected its first female leader, Park Geun-hye. In 2016, she was implicated in a scandal involving corruption, bribery, and influence peddling, which resulted in her impeachment. However, the campaign we'll discuss today takes place in 2014, prior to these troubling circumstances. The next external factor is the modern politics of Korea. South Korea has a pluralistic, democratic, and presidential system. The president is elected by popular vote every 5 years and is limited to one term. The president appoints the prime minister and has the right to release him from his duties. The parliament has 299 members, of which 80% of its members are elected directly, and the remaining 20% are elected based on representation. The main political parties include the Saenuri Party, or NFP, which is the ruling party and is considered right-wing conservative. Members tend to be loyal to the U.S. and have conservative opinions about South Korea's relations with North Korea. The main opposition to this party is the Democratic Party. As in the U.S., this party tends to be more liberal and has a young following. Members tend to have reservations about U.S. presidents and support dealing positively with North Korea. Other parties include the Progressive Freedom Party, the Liberal Democrats Party, and the Korea Renewal Party. In 2014, around the time the campaign we'll be analyzing today was launched, the Freedom House Democracy Index gave South Korea a score of 85. The Corruption Perception Index during this time was a 55. The next external factor is the economics of Korea. The 1980s also saw South Korea increasingly shift its economy toward high-tech and computer industries, which went hand in hand with the move toward democracy. This shift was progressive enough that Seoul was selected to host the 1988 Summer Olympics. Regarding today's level of economic development, we can look at a couple scales. For example, in the 2019 Index of Economic Freedom, South Korea scored a 72.3, landing it in the mostly free category, where the United States also resides with a score of 76.8. Regarding the Human Development Index score, the country received a very high .903. However, The MSCI review considers Korea an emerging market. This weighted index measures market capitalization with the intent to compare equity market performance throughout the world. The index is comprised of stocks from 23 developed countries and 24 emerging markets and is maintained by the Morgan Stanley Capital International. It's interesting how the index groups North and South Korea as one country in this score. We've included this score because obviously South Korea should be closer to the developed end of the scale, and North Korea should be considered a frontier market on the lowest end. However, this middle-of-the-road classification could be indicative of how other parts of the world see the two countries. The next external factor is the media. The South Korean media system is an open market for the mass media industry and actively participates in both traditional and new media. In general, the educated public supports the freedom of media. However, the system is not entirely democratic. On the Freedom House Freedom of the Press Index, South Korea's press was ranked the 60th most free system worldwide, receiving a score of 32. To continue with the media, TV is influential and the major networks have the largest audiences. However, most South Koreans also subscribe to digital cable, satellite, or internet protocol TV. One interesting vehicle for effective messaging is South Korean TV soap operas. These shows are part of the Korean Wave, or the export of South Korean popular culture across Asia. Regarding print media, readership is high with more than 100 national and local dailies. The press is not entirely controlled by the government and therefore is able to criticize. However, many newspapers are controlled by industrial conglomerates. The president is able to regulate the big three broadcasting networks. Almost every household is on the web, according to a Forbes article in 2017. In 2016, there are around 45 million internet users with an online penetration of about 90%. And of those online, more than 88% are connected to a messenger service such as the extremely popular KakaoTalk. Online gaming is a national passion, and the majority of the country uses social media. In fact, 2017 social network penetration in South Korea was 48%, and about 64% of users are on Facebook. Radios offer programs ranging from general broadcasting to music to religious services. The next external factor is the cultural environment. One major hurdle public relations practitioners will need to acknowledge is language. Korean is the official language of South Korea, with its written alphabet Hangul. However, there are 5 major dialects throughout the country. Fortunately, the differences tend to be subtle, allowing the speakers to understand each other. Thanks to the country's history, Korea is greatly influenced by the Chinese and Japanese cultures. For example, Confucianism established many traditions seen in Korea today, such as ethical codes of conduct in social life, showing respect to elders and family, and more. Koreans also believe in sincerity and loyalty and follow certain codes of conduct while meeting, eating, praying, and even celebrating. For example, in place of shaking hands, many Koreans bow as a sign of gratitude and respect to the person they are meeting. Family structure is one of the most important aspects of Korean society. There's a hierarchical structure where the father is head of the house. Children help their parents and must obey them and show respect to the elders. Confucianism, Buddhism, and Christianity are the 3 main religions. Buddhism is the religion in Korea with the most followers, and its teachings have a great impact on Korean lifestyle, culture, and art. Regarding celebrations, festivals have great significance. They tend to be full of life, colors, and joy, and are held throughout the year, typically related to harvest seasons or family. The next external factor is Hofstede's cultural dimensions. With a power distance score of 60, South Koreans tend to believe hierarchy, which makes sense when we review their views on family structure. They also lean more collectivist, valuing loyalty to a group, family, and society as a whole over individual needs. They scored slightly more on the feminine side of the masculinity dimension, which reflects how highly they value caring for others and quality of life. As we alluded to in the previous slide, and supported by the high uncertainty of weighted score, as a nation, South Korea adheres to rigid codes of conduct and rules. This dimension also reflects South Koreans' negative opinions of wasting time. The highest score was in the long-term orientation dimension at 100%. They maintain links to the past and traditions while dealing with modern challenges. Finally, regarding indulgence, South Koreans value restraint and tend to be pessimistic, according to this dimension. The last external factor is relevant government regulations. Regarding censorship, there are a number of restrictions on the free circulation of information and opinions via technical filtering and administrative deletion of content. For example, content that praises or benefits North Korea or undermines the traditional social values of the country. Regulatory bodies include the Korea Communications Commission, which responds to the president, regulates the telecommunications and broadcast sectors, and the Korean Communications Standards Committee, which monitors internet content and issues censorship orders to content hosts and other service providers. Now we'll go over the SWOT analysis. For strengths, the campaign's focus is on exploration, which is true to the brand and its company culture. The brand is also already well known in South Korea, so brand awareness is not an issue. The weaknesses are that being an American brand, there's often a lack of cultural understanding, and that the products have often been perceived as too expensive in the past. The opportunities for the company are to increase community involvement and outreach, and to receive coverage across multiple media platforms and outlets. The threats include the brand's negative associations with status, the company's preconceived perceptions as a solely outdoor brand, that competitors such as Nike already have such a strong hold in the country, and finally that knockoffs are extremely common in the region. Next, we'll cover the different audiences. The primary publics are young professionals. We've elected to use the term primary publics here, however, all case descriptions only alluded to one main target audience, young professionals in South Korea in their 20s and early 30s. Interesting facts about this particular demographic include the fact that they are less likely to get married compared to previous generations. A slight majority of these young adults prefer to spend time alone for reasons like being able to do things their way, avoiding comparisons with others, and trouble fitting in with groups. This generation is also straying from religion, saying that the pressures of education, job searching, and raising a family are more of a priority. The Center for Happiness Studies at Seoul National University reported in 2018 that this age group is also the least happy in the country, scoring only a 52 out of 100 on its happiness index. Facebook is the most popular social media site among South Koreans in their late 20s and 30s. However, other popular platforms include YouTube and Korean-specific sites and networks such as Kakao, Naver, and Dom. Although there are no official secondary publics here, an unplanned audience emerged after the viral social success of this campaign. The original video was turned into a 30-second commercial, giving the campaign executors the opportunity to reach a secondary audience, young professionals in their 20s to 30s who live farther outside of Seoul and more rural communities. Individuals living in these communities are more likely to have television than to have smartphones, where most people would access social media sites. Now we'll go over an overview of the campaign. For the rest of this presentation, to make the most sense, we recommend you pause this lecture to watch a short video because it is the cornerstone of the campaign. It also has a surprise which is fundamental to the campaign. It's too difficult to explain and analyze the work without spoiling the video. If the embedded video does not work you cannot copy the provided link, simply try searching South Korea North Face Never Stop Exploring campaign. Enjoy. Now that you're back, we'll go over the theme and messages for the campaign. The title of this campaign was Never Stop Exploring. This appeared to also serve as the tagline for the campaign. However, it should be noted that this is also the slogan for all of North Face, which leads us to believe that when translating some documents from Korean to English, the titles could have been altered. The theme was thrill and adventure seeking and facing fears, as opposed to outdoor exploration. Supporting messages included, when was your last exploration? Some of the messaging was not offered in English, however, the translations communicated the idea of rising to the challenge and awakening the adventurous spirit, which lines up with the theme of the campaign. The mat in the video also read, again, to exploration. We thought it was interesting that despite the collectivist attitude of South Koreans, the messages seemed to address the individual. However, the content itself told multiple stories via each participant. Therefore, when these messages are coupled together in the video, it addresses the country's value of loyalty to the group. Next is the goals and objectives. North Face's goal was to present itself as an adventure brand for anyone, not just the outdoor-oriented. The objectives of the campaign were to modify the North Face brand among young professionals in Seoul, South Korea, from an outdoor brand to an adventure brand, to engage with young professionals in Seoul, South Korea by operating a pop-up shop and publicity stunt for 2 days, and to increase engagement among consumers on social media platforms through video content. The strategies used were, according to a campaign summary listed under a competition entry, the content tapped into feelings of hesitation, excitement, resolve, and finally the courage summoned in order to seize the opportunity among campaign participants in hopes of having a lasting impact on the individual. They also used the element of surprise to draw in viewers and then awe, supported by the dramatic music and victory of the video participants at the end, which is an emotion studies have shown makes individuals feel more connected to humanity. The messaging also really focused on the word exploration, which ties back to the objective of making the brand adventure-focused, not outdoor-focused. Regarding delivery strategies, the campaign took advantage of South Korea's high internet and social network penetration when selecting its multiple social media platforms, which were easily shared from one site to the next. By choosing to use video participants, which viewers find more engaging, by choosing to use video content instead of images, the practitioners were able to strategically tell the stories of the participants, which viewers find more engaging. This had the added benefit of creating movement to catch a viewer's eye as they scroll through social media feeds. Now for the tactics. This campaign was centered around a video. To create the video, InterRed and The North Face set up a pop-up shop in Seoul, South Korea. While individuals were touring the shop, the floor split unexpectedly, sliding out slowly from beneath the feet of the consumers. Individuals ran to the 4-meter-high rock wall in the back to keep from falling. Next, a North Face jacket lowered from the ceiling, and consumers had 30 seconds to earn the jacket by jumping for it, safely landing on the mats below. It was a 2-day operation. The video was then shared to target audiences via YouTube, Facebook, Naver, and Dom. The latter two of the list are South Korean forms of social media that also function as search engines, similar to YouTube, which are popular among the target audience. The initial campaign was so successful on social media that it was enough to convince the executing agency and the North Face to turn the video into the 30-second commercial to be aired on Korean television. Implementation, messages, and communication tools. First, we'll analyze the video. The Never Stop Exploring video has a few elements to note. First of all, the video held no nature scenes other than the mountain images printed on the walls. While this makes perfect sense when we consider the goal of the campaign, it's very unlike the rest of the North Face brand. When comparing the websites of the North Face geared toward Americans versus the website for North Face Korea, we noticed that the Korean pages focus predominantly on the products as opposed to the vast, beautiful nature scenes of the American pages. After we noticed this, we realized it was also true for this campaign. It all happens indoors. Additionally, the shooting style of the video felt different. The focus was on the individual undergoing his or her adventure instead of beautiful or even treacherous scenery, typical of the North Face content. The filming felt less high-tech, but worked to the advantage of the more lighthearted content. Finally, the majority of the participants were individuals who fit the target audience description, young South Korean professionals. This helped viewers who also fit this category to identify with the video and the brand. Now for the press materials. Unfortunately, because of the language barrier, finding the official press release was difficult. However, we did manage to find a quote that was reported by Asia Pacific Campaigns and attributed to InterRed and North Face. The quote reads, "Consumers are used to comfortable city lives and are losing their natural strengths. Based on this brand philosophy, the North Face Korea invited customers to face an unexpected challenge and encourages them to overcome the situation with their own strength in order to begin their journey to explore." Next, the photos. These photos were also released with the campaign. The images are pulled from the video and feature the participants moments before and after their personal exploration experiences. We also found it interesting that the images featured both men and women. The last thing we will analyze is the earned media. An additional challenge of this project, as neither of the group members speak Korean, coupled with the fact that the campaign launched 5 years ago, which is ancient in the world of social media, it was difficult to find organic material to reflect South Korea's reactions. However, several English-speaking industry and non-English industry-focused publications found the campaign to be genius. This included publications like a blog titled Into the Mines, People Magazine, an online marketing publication called ClickZ. The campaign also received a feature article in Campaign Asia, a marketing and advertising publication offered in multiple languages. All publications and articles related to the campaign were positive. For influences on PR in South Korea, one of the major influences and really the existence of PR marketing, advertising, and more in South Korea can be attributed to the 1988 Olympics. Hosting such a massive event that the entire world watched drove the need for these professions through the roof. Today, public relations in South Korea is all about controlling the story. Practitioners feel that having control will ensure a positive outcome, typically in terms of positive coverage. This could explain why the majority of this campaign is based on owned media. As you will see later in the evaluation portion of this lecture, the success of the social media objective was based on views, as opposed to shares and other forms of engagement on social media. This is also reflective of Korea's corporate PR culture, which tends to rely on one-way communication rooted in the need for hierarchy. Now we'll evaluate the campaign. Regarding the social media engagement objective, this campaign was undoubtedly a success. Within 2 days, the video received 160,000 views via social media, which was even more impressive in 2014. Within 2 weeks, the social experiment style video received more than 1.5 million views on YouTube. Next, the video is proof itself of the company and agency's ability to engage in one-on-one interactions with consumers via the pop-up shop. Finally, we were able to find hard data to support if the campaign successfully shifted consumers' interpretation of the brand as an outdoor brand to an adventure brand. However, the advertising community seemed to think that the campaign was a success based on its numerous honors and awards. For example, the campaign was featured on the cover of Adweek and received a 2015 Clio Sports Silver Award. Additionally, as noted before, the initial campaign success was so great on social media that it inspired a full commercial. One of the main critiques we have for this campaign is in the evaluation phase. We struggle to find hard data to support how successful the North Face was in shifting its perception as an exploration brand. We also would have wanted to see a defined secondary audience for the campaign. We also would have recommended following up with this campaign with other similar videos. We found one example involving virtual reality, however, this campaign did not generate anywhere near as much praise or coverage. Perhaps the company or Anored decided it was a one-hit wonder. In conclusion, in brief, this campaign was centered around an immersive experience with consumers to generate relatable content for the North Face's target audiences and present it as a brand that supports the exploration of every day. Some of the key takeaways were to know how to successfully reach your audience and the advantage that PR practitioners and companies have when they rely on locals for the execution of campaigns. Now we'll go over the circuit of culture. The production portion was in the setting up of the shop for the video. For representation, the leaping for the jacket and the presentation of the jacket hanging above combined with the environment of the store and being indoors. The identity was shown in the obtaining of the jacket and in the characters being shown as victorious and as an explorer. The consumption was shown in the reactions of the participants and the consumers. The regulation, we see regulation defined by this experiment and the cultural norm of a shopping experience. We also see certain types of people come into the shop which may not be an accurate representation thanks to South Korean regulation. Thank you.